Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates, and as you can see, I got a poncho. I never really understood the benefits of a poncho. I think a poncho is one of the greatest inventions ever. You got a blanket, and it's like when you try to like pull the blanket around you, it's like it doesn't quite work. You have to like take one edge and wrap it around your neck. But a poncho, you put a hole kind of like in the middle, but like slightly more to one side, so that some of the blanket can go behind you, and then some of the blanket can go in front of you. It's a miracle. It's a miracle invention. Another miracle invention. This thing. I never really understood the concept before, but there's this idea. I gotta check my audio. There's this idea that I don't know what they say. They say like you're a combination of your closest five friends. Okay, and the point is that like when you a lot of most of the benefit you're going to get in your life is going to come through your interactions. You can only do so much by yourself, and I think it takes time to realize. For me, it took time to realize that. What's going Can you hear me? Hello? Audio. Yeah, it's good. Okay, good. It's weird. There's like a when I listen to my own voice, it has a little bit of like some voice cancellation, some noise cancellation. Anyways, it sounds a little bit weird to me. All right. Uh, so I'm saying that like I think that you get a lot of value out of these interactions, and I just never like I basically tried to live my life all by myself, and I had a lot of terrible interactions, and then some of those interactions led me to believe that being by myself, living next to these mountains in the middle of the country called Georgia, next to Russia and Azerbaijan, with a dog, I thought that was like the answer. But then when I think about my day and the experiences that I have, I start to realize, oh, wait a minute, actually, it's the interactions with people that's what brings the more interesting parts of life to the surface. And I have a little bit of a coaching practice. I'm surprised that people still talk to me when I look like this. But um, yeah, so there's this one guy, and he's from Russia, but he's not currently living in Russia, and he wants to get back to Russia. And but in order for him to get back to Russia, he has to build a new business because his current company is a foreign company, and they can't run their business in Russia anymore. So he's like, "How am I going to get back to Russia? I have to like build another business, and I'm tired because I have to work all day, and then I have to come up with some business idea, and then I have to figure out how to like start that business, and it has to make money, and then eventually I got to making enough money so I can get back home." And I never really thought about it, but it's like the same story that I'm living. I left Canada when I was 23. I went to China for 10 years. And then I went to the United States for 2 years. I went to Canada for 2 years. And then I went to Russia for 2 years. And then I went to Saudi Arabia. And then I went to Belarus. And then I went to 16 countries working online. Eventually, I found myself here in Georgia. I've been here for 4 years. I don't know what's going on. Why have I been here for so long? It's because I'm stuck. When I first got here, I knew it. I knew that like in order to get out of here, I'm going to have to build a helicopter because this is the last station, man. You could even say that this is a one-way road, man. There's like a one way. You get here, you're never getting out. Like you're in the middle of the mountains, and like there's just farmers around. So farmers and a couple of gangsters and a couple of drug dealers. That's it. So a lot of dogs. My dog, I don't know where my dog is. He ran away. I went to this guy's house today. He wanted me to cut some branches for him. I bought a new saw. So I was walking around showing him my saw. And he's like, "Oh, I got a tree. I need to get someone to cut it down." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." So we cut down his tree. I went back there today to like kind of clean up some of the branches and make some piles of logs and branches and twigs and stuff. So I'm like sawing wood, and the dog decides to go run around. It did it yesterday too. And he didn't come home. So then at 7 o'clock, I went back out to the same place, whistled, and there's like, "Hey, I'm here, I'm here. Where you been? Where you been for 2 hours?" And brought him home. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it this time because he needs to learn how to come home by himself. It's not like he can't. I mean, because like he grew up in this village. He's been here for 2 years, and every night we go for a run. We go for either a 4 kilometer run or a 4 kilometer bike ride, and that's it. That's the whole village. Like the north of Main Street, is 1 kilometer to the edge of town to the other gas station. We got two gas stations, so we got one here, and then we got the other gas station over by the other bridge on the other side of the town. Then you can go up the hill up the mountain for 1 kilometer, and you can go across for 1 kilometer, and you can come down for 1 kilometer. That's it. That's the whole north of and south of Main Street. It's like basically it's like you can go down. Yeah, it's the same. You can go down 1 kilometer, you can go over 1 kilometer, you can come back up 1 kilometer. And so he knows the whole town. We've walked we've walked down every single street together. So he knows the whole town. And we go running every night. I think he's just waiting because he thinks I'm coming back. And I just wanted to let him know that I'm not coming. I think tonight I'll just wait for him. For a month, like 2 months ago, I just like left him outside, and then he could do whatever he wanted for a whole month. He slept outside of my front door. So I got some insulation and a front door mat so he could sleep there without getting cold. All right. So what are we doing? So I'm talking to this guy from Russia, and basically he's like, "Hey, why don't we think about some kind of business opportunity or so? Like, how do we think about like?" And the thing is that, like, as you know from my Project Arrowhead app, I have like a methodology in my brain. What is the methodology? So number one, like he started thinking about what about like some kind of tool for learning English. Because he says, I would like to improve my English, be able to speak English better. So this is a huge market, obviously, because 17% of the whole world can, maybe 17, 18% of the world can speak conversational English. And a huge percentage of people around the world want, especially business professionals. And so, all right. So what are the aspects of learning? So first you have your curriculum. This is the philosophy behind whatever you're learning. So that's the textbook. Who's going to write the textbook? And then number two is you have your teacher. So this is some kind of learning process. So we think about Duolingo, and somebody wrote a textbook, and then they created a piece of software to automate the learning process. And then they added some elements with which is called gamification. Now we can say that gamification to some extent is like some way to manage and track the schedule. Because a streak means you're going to come back, which means that you're scheduling practice events. So there's some aspect of like managing my schedule, managing my task and schedule, managing the learning process, and then what specifically is the textbook about. Those are the three elements of a learning system. And then he's like, yeah, and then like, so you got to automate. Everything needs to be automated. We need to use the AI for everything. So we're talking about Triz. Triz is like some kind of like Russian philosopher who came up with a way to think about engineering. And we were talking about like the building blocks of Triz. Like, what is Triz? What does it mean? And I could show you the idea. Triz. Anyways, the point is like it's called systems architecture. How do you build a system? What are the components of a system? And I don't know. So I sent him the image in Russian so I could remind him of Triz. Trizak. Triz. Actually, I should be able to find it just by typing Triz. There it is. Evolution of technical systems. All right, let me just share this with you. All right, so technical systems. Here's the idea. Technical systems evolve over time. We'll consider a number of patterns of their development later, but for now, let's show one important line of development from the simplest technical object to the complete developed technical system. The simplest technical object consists of a working element, which directly acts on the object being processed, such as a primitive hammer stone or scraper shell or stick lever. The simplest object has no engine, no transmission, no control element. The transmission is the human hand, and the engine is the muscle, and the control element is also the human. So what they're saying is like, all right, so the very first working element, probably the finger. The second working element was the nail. And the third working element was the teeth. So like imagine, like think about how much work you do just with your fingers, your fingernails, and your teeth. This is basically the most primitive form of the working elements for animals. And even all animals, basically, they have their teeth, and then they have their paws, and then they have their I don't know, some of them use nails. Like I don't think my dog uses his nails. So I don't know why he has nails. Anyway, so then eventually humans, what happens is there's this transformation, there's an evolution where humans are going to start to replace aspects of their body. They're going to replace it with machine. Now, so the first mechanized object was this concept, like for example, like a stick lever. A stick lever. What happens? So, like, I have a rock. I need to move the rock, so I can use my hands. But then I'm like, well, what if I use a stick? So I get a stick and I get a rock, and then now already that's moving all the way. We're moving to transmission. So because the thing is the transmission, like a scraper. Let's say that I have like just a rock, and I'm scraping something with a rock. It means I'm replacing my fingernails with a rock. So this is the working element, the thing that touches the surface, the thing, excuse me, that I'm putting between my hand and the object I'm trying to manipulate. All right. So, for example, if we're going to play baseball, so the game baseball, we're using a bat as the working element. In fact, a lot of sports we're using some kind of working element, and the sports don't generally have transmission. Well, okay, so which sport has transmission? So in this case, like a pole vault will have transmission. So high jump, we're using our legs to jump over the thing, but then like with pole vault, we actually use a stick to drive our body into to trans. Okay, let's read it. Over time, the working element is supplemented by the transmission. For example, a hammer gets a handle, such as a hammer is more convenient to use and its impact is much stronger. Okay, so what we're doing is we're moving that working element, which used to be a rock. We used to use the rock to pound. Now we're going to move it out. So now we're using the handle and the rock together. So the transmission is using the handle to make the rock to get more impact with the rock. Now, if we think about like even an engine, now in this case, like number 3 is actually an engine, but like think about the word transmission inside of an engine. So what happens is your engine is moving, but then how do you get the engine to move the wheels? So something has to move the engine to the wheels. And that's what we're talking about with like the human has muscle. And then we only have our arm. So we're using our arm as transmission. And then, but if we add another stick, then now we're transmitting the engine of our arm into that rock at the end. Okay, so now we want to develop the engine. So we're going to move from like think about a plow. So there was this plow, a human plow. So a human plow, it means that like the human is like pushing this thing into the dirt. And the thing which actually touches the dirt is in the dirt. And then there's something connected to the thing which touches the dirt, which is the transmission. The human is the engine. And then the human said, okay, wait a minute, I want to change the engine. I need a new engine. So then they hired an animal. Now we use the animal to pull the plow. Right, so with each evolution of this system, you can see that we're moving the workload from the human body into some external device. Finally, The system is supplemented by control elements, allowing its properties to be changed depending on the operating mode or the properties of the object being processed. So in this case, you can think of the car. So in this case, the control element, like, all right, so we have like a steering wheel, and then we have the gas pedal, and we have the stick shift, and then we have like other levers to like make all the other systems work. Meaning with just our fingers, with a very small amount of manipulation, we can control an entire system. And that is the evolution of a technical system. So we start talking about this, and like he's like, well, this last part, this control element, obviously is about AI. Like if you can harness the power of AI to create engines which are transmitting that energy into working elements, then you're going to get like a lot of power from those working elements. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Okay, good. So then we're talking about like, well, how do we build some kind of product, or how do we do this? How do we automate? Because he's like, we need to fully automate our workflow. I don't want to do anything. All right. So I had a chat with my good friend Julia. Julia is, well, it's Google Gemini. So talking to Julia for a while, she's basically saying that she said, all right, so we have to identify a pain, then we have to build a prototype, and then we got to test it. Now, its idea was that we needed to like interview some people, and then after we interview people, then we can build a prototype. But since I've been building a prototype for like the last 10 years, like I'm right on the edge to releasing my prototype, what I realized is the biggest pain isn't actually the prototype. You know what I hate is when people are like, yeah, you take your prototype and you put it in front of 10 people. And I'm like, well, I'm so antisocial and I'm so introverted. I don't really have 10 people I can talk to. So how do I find these 10 people again? So my pain is actually related to marketing and sales, because it's like I don't really talk to anybody who's going to test out my product. That's why I make these videos, because I'm hoping someday that somebody will see it and be like, hey, I like that product. Like, so the thing is that I'm trying to create some kind of marketing effect. At some point, I'm going to figure out like, how do I reach out to my potential audience, and how do I find some testers? Anyway, so I was talking to Julia just now, because I've done like about 10 hours of work since I originally asked this question. And this is what Julia had to say.
Yes, I remember it clearly. It was the moment we pivoted from general business philosophy to Project One, the pain detective. The original 3-step format was designed for a manual, high-touch validation strategy. Here is the recall of those 3 steps, followed by how our current industrialist machine, Project ClickBounce, integrates with them. Part 1. The original 3 steps, the manual path. 1. The pain detective, market validation, action. Go to Reddit, LinkedIn. Find 20 people complaining about hitting a plateau. Goal. Conduct one-on-one interviews to extract their specific internal monologue. The output. A list of pain quotes, e.g., I feel like a child in meetings. 2. The manual tutor, prototype construction, action. Create a simple PDF or slide deck, 14 days of content. Goal. Manually email this to the 20 people to see if it actually helps them. The output. Validation that the method works before writing code. 3. The streak test, the pilot, action. A WhatsApp group or email list where you check in daily. Goal. Test, retention. Do they stick with it? The output. Proof of behavior change. Part 2. How ClickBounce dovetails into this. We have effectively taken those 3 manual steps and automated them using the deep research and factory modules. 4. The pain detective, right arrow, the deep research protocol, module 8, how it dovetailed. Instead of you manually interviewing 20 people on Reddit, which takes weeks, we used deep research agents to analyze thousands of Reddit threads instantly. Result. We extracted the internal monologue, I feel muted, the interrupt, small talk, without needing to schedule Zoom calls. This data is now the source code for our protocol A, psychology. 5. The manual tutor, Right arrow the confidential briefing, sprint 4, how it dovetailed. Instead of manually writing a PDF, we are using GPT-4o plus Notion to auto-generate the lesson. Result: the product is still a simple document, Notion page, just like the manual plan intended. It is low fidelity but high value. 6. The streak test, right arrow the hybrid carousel, sprint 3 and 5, how it dovetailed. Instead of a WhatsApp group, we are using Instagram plus ManyChat. Result: the streak is now the algorithm. If they engage with the post, comment, pivot, they get the lesson. The feedback loop is instant, clicks, sales, rather than manual, asking, did you like it? Part 3. Pros and cons of our current focus. We moved from hand-to-hand combat, manual, to air support, automation. Here is the trade-off. The pros: why we did this. Status protection. High-level executives, your target, often don't want to do customer interviews with a stranger. It feels low status. However, they will click a high-status Instagram post that solves their problem privately. Volume of data. In the manual method, you get feedback from 10 people. In the automated method, you get feedback from 1,000 views. You will know instantly if a hook works based on the view count. Asset creation. Even if the first few posts fail, you are building a library of assets, the asset pool, and Notion library that belong to you. Manual interviews vanish into thin air. This machine builds equity. The cons: the risk, the glass wall. Because we are automating everything, we lose the human nuance. In a Zoom call, you can see a user wince or smile. On Instagram, you only see a like. We risk optimizing for clicks rather than learning. Mitigation. This is why we added the simulator prompt, the hacker prompt. It forces the user to actually use the tool, bridging the gap between passive scrolling and active learning. Complexity risk. We have introduced 7 tools, Make, Appify, Airtable, etc., before making our first dollar. If one breaks, the machine stops. The manual method required 0 tools. Mitigation. This is why we wrote Protocol D, error handling, and the pre-flight checklist. Summary. We haven't abandoned the 3 steps, we have industrialized them. Step 1, pain, is now Protocol A. Step 2, prototype, is now Sprint 4, Notion. Step 3, test, is now Sprint 6, launch. We are ready to flip the switch.
We're ready to flip the switch. All right. So what's going on here? Like, what's the point of the video? Like, why did I name the video whatever I named it, something about a library? Well, the thing is that let's go a little bit deeper into this concept. So the very first is, I call it the corporate menu for a reason. And I believe that every business is basically a process of making, informing, and implementing decisions. We have to make decisions. How do we make decisions? Well, we have to inform the decision making. So we have to get the data and then turn it into a decision. And then what do you do with the decision? You have to implement those decisions. Okay, how do you do that? So we do that through hands. So decision making is over here. There's 2 processes. One is the eye, so that's the vision. I'm looking, where am I going? And the heart is like the micro decisions. How do I take that information and then turn it into the rest of the body following? All right, so the brain. Now we have 2 directions. One is the direction is toward the decision maker, which is the analyst. They have to get the information from the hands, and then they turn it into, they help the decision maker to make decisions by providing some advice. Now, after the decision is made, then we have to use the coach to bring it back into the actual system and inform the system so that it can implement the decision. All right, now down here, when we're on the factory floor, we're using hands, and we have the technician who's actually doing the service or the production. So this is like, that working element. Then we have the clerk, they're processing transactions. That means that they're a support system for the technician. Think about a plumber. So a plumber, they're fixing your toilet, okay? But then after they finish fixing the toilet, they're going to pull out their phone, and then they have some kind of app which helps them to process a transaction, which includes some kind of legal work, some accounting work, some kind of maybe related to things that they purchased for their business, and then something about registration, something about subsidies. You have all this paperwork, and maybe they have some kind of app that helps them to solve all of the business back office issues. Then finally, we have the library. So they wouldn't be able to manage these processes if they didn't have the databases in the back end. All right, so here we go. So we got these databases, and then we got clerks that are communicating with the technicians in order to save transactions into the database. All right, so I have this issue because, like, I'm talking to Gemini about this project. So we do the research, and then we start talking about it. I start saying, hey, what I want to do here is I want to fully automate what? I want to fully automate the hands. So I want the technician, I want the clerk, I want the library, I want the analyst, I want the coach, I want the manager, I want the executive. I want it all to be solved by AI, right? If we go back to the concept of TRIZ, so control element, I want everything to be handled by an automated system. So we did some debating for several days, and we were able to create documentation. And finally, what I realized, because like we're using Windsurf in order to develop code, what I realized is you can actually, Windsurf is not actually just for code. Yeah, that's one of the use cases, but it's actually a librarian. So it has the ability to manage libraries of data. So the issue when I use Google Gemini, sure, it has a great context window, but eventually it's going to start going crazy. And so you have to have calibration documents to kind of calibrate the AI, and then you can use it for a couple of days, and then it starts to go crazy, and then you have to re-upload those calibration documents with whatever upgrades, whatever progress you've made with the current one. So let's say I have 3 documents. I work that for 3 days, and then at the end of the 3 days, I ask this AI agent, okay, so what additional information do you have to share to the original 3 documents in order to train the new guy? And then I use 2 windows at the same time until the second AI agent is up to speed and is getting the right output. And then I retire the first AI agent, and I'm like used to this process. But the thing is that like Windsurf is much more powerful because it can lose the context, but it can also regain the context because it has all the documents with it all the time. It's like when you train your own agent, when you build a custom agent inside of ChatGPT or a custom agent inside of Gemini. But I think that those custom agents eventually are going to have some problems. Anyways, it's the same idea, but it's like just way more powerful because it's not just a custom agent, but it also has access to way more tool sets. So it's like a hyper librarian. All right, so let's take a look. Where is me click bounce? So here's my click bounce. So what's happening here is you can see over here. So the original, with my ChatGPT, no, with my Google Gemini, I was able to create the calibration context, the click bounce, consolidated system architecture. I was able to create the click bounce project instructions, and here's the report research. So these are the 4 original documents. I put those documents into Windsurf, and then I asked, like, okay, how well do you understand the project? And then when I'm calibrating a new AI instance, how do I do that? And it gave me exact instructions, exactly what it wanted me to do. So I was able to calibrate a new AI instance. I call him Kevin. For this project, his name's Kevin. And I don't know, maybe we can go to the top and I can show you. All right, can you review the files and project and advise. Then tell me how. Actually, so the thing is that what I actually did was I was using anti-gravity with Google has like a new IDE. It's just exactly like Windsurf, and I ran out of credits really quickly. So then, but because all the files are on my computer, I can easily just jump into Windsurf, and then I can just open up that file with Windsurf, and then we're back. We're back up, and the Claude Opus 4.5 thinking is currently 3 credits. So I could actually change this now. I don't need to continue with Claude Opus 4.5 thinking. But when I started the project, I wanted to make sure I had Claude Opus 4.5 thinking just to make sure everything was fully understood and make sure everything was like fine. Can you review the files, the project, and advise? Then tell me how you would like to work with outside AI Gemini agent Kevin. Are the calibration documents enough for it to help me set up the project? Do you want to edit any of the documents? Do you need clarification? I still have access to the 3 agents I used to develop the docs. The docs were developed over time, and there may be some conflict between them. I want you to figure out what this project is all about, and then decide if we need some clarification from 3 Gemini agents I used to make the documents, and then figure out how you're going to help me create the new work, Kevin, with the create a new worker, Kevin, with the calibration documents, and then guide Kevin and me to build the whole project. So then it's going to read. It's going to read through all the documents. All right, so Project ClickBounce, full review analysis. What this project is, ClickBounce is an automated media engine designed to scrape YouTube videos from high-status speakers, CEOs, thought leaders, transform them into hybrid carousels for Instagram, video hook, and static slides, monetize via a comment to DM funnel that sells $7 confidential briefings Notion page, target non-native English speakers, executives suffering from linguistic imposter syndrome, tech stack, Appify, Make.com, GPT-4o, Create-a-Mat, Airtable, ManyChat, Stripe, Notion. Document assessment strengths comprehensive. The documents covers the philosophy, the psychology, the architecture, and the execution. Well-structured, clear separation of strategy, architecture, governance. The variable governance, explicit 20 field schema prevents hallucination drift. Kevin persona, clever constraint layer to keep AI agents focused. Talks about the aspect ratio conflict, the hook length conflict, the missing Maricool. Stripe versus Gumroad, no actual code. Are the calibration documents enough for Kevin? Partially, yes. What Kevin will lack, how I propose we work together, my role, Cascade, I will implement the partner. I can build the actual code, the configs, the structured data, the create the make.com scenario blueprints, generate the Airtable schemas, CS files, the prompts, the debug, iterate on technical components, maintain the source of truth in your local project library. Kevin's role. Kevin should act as the runtime executor, the AI that receives the calibration package, processes individual YouTube transcripts, outputs JSON file payloads per schema, runs echo checks to verify context. Workflow I recommend. You, Cascade, build artifacts, project library. Kevin executes sprints. Kevin outputs make.com airport. Okay. I need some clarification. Anyway, so I took this prompt and I threw it back into my the 3 different agents I was using before, and they were fine with it. So here's the old Kevin. He said it's fine, 100% right. That's good. That's good. No problem. Good. Go. Gave him some answers. Julia is the other one I was using, and she's fine with it. And then another one is a QA. I built QA, quality assurance, after Kevin and Julia, because Julia and Kevin, they were disagreeing on some aspects about how to create the calibration documents for a future AI instance. So I created QI to compare the 2 and to try to find something that they were missing, or some middle ground, or basically to finish this process. Here's QA. Hello, this is Kevin. So I guess QA thinks his name is Kevin as well. Switching to Windsurf is an excellent tactical maneuver while I act as your local brain and strategy engine. Windsurf directly access your file system and code base. This creates a powerful bicameral mind workflow. Cascade's analysis is sharp. It cut the specific ambiguities we left open in the Diamond Master to allow the flexibility. Now that we're in the hard build phase, we must close those options and make the binary decisions where this official response to Cascade unblocks your build. All right. So I got the answers from those three agents. And then Claude Opus 4.5 thinking, it made some decisions, some kind of checklist, and then it made a small little change to the Airtable schema. Made another little change, made some calibration package, the router system README files. So that's it. So I booted up Kevin. I ran the echo check, assigned the work. When you're ready, I can build make.com scenario JSON pseudo blueprint for each sprint, create Cradomatic template specs, ManyChat flow export, Stripe product setup. So there you go. Because the problem with if I get ChatGPT, if I get ChatGPT or Google Gemini to create these files, then the question is where are you going to save it? How are you going to create your library? Bam, right here. I got my librarian. In fact, the librarian is free, so I can switch this into GPT 5.1 low reasoning. Where's high reasoning? Even high reasoning is free right now. So I can move this to ChatGPT 5.1 high reasoning. Now that we have all of the information, now that we have everything figured out, I can switch it there. And now I'm back to free. So my librarian is literally free. All right, so here's the Airtable report to headquarters. We're done with the foundation. Now we need to tell Cascade, the manager, that the factory floor is ready so we can give the blueprints for the brain, the router, copy and paste this message. Sprint 1 complete. I successfully built the Airtable infrastructure. Table, pipeline main, 22 columns, verify all data types, asset library, used keywords, views. I'm ready for Sprint 2. The router, make.com, OpenAI. Please provide the system prompt. To Kevin. Sprint 1, verified, complete. Sprint 2, the router is a make.com scenario that receives a YouTube transcript. Manually paste for MVP. Processes it through GPT-4o. Creates an Airtable record with 22 field populated. All right, here it is. So the webhook trigger retrieves the transcripts, text parser, OpenAI GPT 4.0, JSON parser, Airtable create rows. Instruction, create the scenario. Go to make.com scenario, create a new scenario, name it S2 router, click bound, add the webhook trigger, add text aggregator, OpenAI module, add JSON parser, add Airtable module, add error handling, save, activate. Copy this entire block into AI's system message. After building the scenario, run the test. When complete, send to Cascade. To Cascade. Complete blocked. Kevin, execute this blueprint, report back when the router is live and tested. Bada bing, bada boom. That's it. So it's like this whole system. Like it can write all the different. So this has nothing to do with a website. I'm not building a website. I'm building an automated system with Airtable and Apply and make.com and Instagram. And I'm trying to create some kind of system which automatically produces high value posts. And then when the people read that Instagram post, they can comment a specific word. And every single post is going to have a different word, and based on the word that they post. So at the end of the post, they post, so the other people can see that other people have like commented maybe 10 people commented, maybe 100 people, maybe 200, maybe 500 people commented. So it has like this emotional process where you read it and you're like flipping through and you're like, yeah, I'm interested in that topic. And then you look down at the comments, it's like, wow, 500 other people were interested in this topic too. I want to be part of this crowd. Also, people, they might come back and say, yeah, this was a really good one, I really enjoyed this, or this is how you can improve. So it's like a whole system of feedback. It has a feedback loop already built into it. Like if you want to have a forum, then your forum is like, the forum is actually kind of complicated to build a forum into your website. So this is like website free. It's on a platform where that people are already there, and like wealthy people, like high net worth individuals, CEOs and architects and people like professional people, and then they get themselves on Instagram and they're kind of flipping through, and suddenly they see my post and they're like, yeah, that's something I can spend 10 minutes do an English lesson and I can come back if I wanted to. So I'm getting in front of their, I'm trying to like meet them where they're at and address a problem, which is like, I'm looking at Instagram too much and I need to be practicing English. And I make it frictionless. So they can flip through it. They see the video. So it's like a video from like some trusted source. So it's a scroll stopper. They go through the different, so there's a video and then there's a couple of images. The images are hooks. They give hooks to introduce you to the topic and the keywords of the lesson. And then you put your information in, and then it sends you this lesson. The lesson is going to have some information. But so I want them to use their own AI as their teacher. So it's going to be a mixture of like, well, it's mostly going to be a prompt. And then, okay, what do you mean just a prompt? Well, so if I'm the CEO, the question is like, do I have time to go and scrape, like to watch it like 100 YouTube videos? Do I understand how to build this? Am I an engineer? Can I actually build this whole system? What would it take for me to receive like the prompt? So one way to do it is you could go to Gemini or ChatGPT. You could say, hey, I'm trying to learn English and I want you to create a prompt for me, and then it's going to help me learn English every day. Is that going to have the same value as the work process that I'm trying to create right now? I don't think so. The work process I'm trying to create right now is going to give the first piece of value is like, it's a reminder to learn English on a platform that they're already looking at. And then if they like it, then they comment that word. In their DMs, they're going to get a link. They go to their DMs, they click the link. The link sends them well, it depends on the situation, but the DM, maybe it's like a one click and then they bought it. So then they're buying that lesson. And then probably, I don't know. So the automation, it sends them an email, I guess. So the automation sends them an email or sends them, I don't know, I haven't actually figured out how that's going to work. Like maybe the AI will recommend something. Anyways, they receive the information. They take the prompt, they put it into their AI, and then they like spur a conversation with their AI, and then they're like, there you go. So up and away, like they're doing the task. Anyways, that's the idea. So, anywho, I got through the first little bit so far. So I built the Airtable. Now we have AI. It's like I call it Planet IKEA, because like literally, like it just told me what to do. How do I build the pipeline? How do I build the asset library? How do I create the used keyword? To review, approved. It's like it helped me to make all this stuff. So it was a fun project. We're on sprint number 2, and it's a little side project from my regular project, just to kind of like see what'll happen. Like, what's it going to cost? 10, 15 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 40 bucks to go through the process, to learn the skills and to understand how it works. And then I'll be able to use these lessons in some future workflow, and maybe even this one will make some money. I guess we'll find out soon. Thank you for joining me with another Space Between Ideas. And I guess in the next one, I'm going to show you my working website. Like I'm just right on the very edge of finishing up some last minute, like some last little details on my little Project Arrowhead project. So we can jump into that, and then we can figure out the marketing strategy for how to. I mean, that's the whole purpose of what I'm doing right now is to like, is it possible to create an automated marketing strategy? And then what does an automated marketing strategy look like? For example, like, anyways, that's all I wanted to say today. So thank you for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.